Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Elizabeth Anglin, and I serve as the Chief Elections Commission for the 2026 general elections. Welcome to the first of two president and vice presidential debates for the 2026 general election. For those of you joining us in person and via YouTube, thank you for being here. We'd also like to extend a very special thank you to the Sunflower for moderating this debate.
Hello, my name is Ainsley Smythe, and I'm the managing editor at The Sunflower.
And I'm Cass Lewis, the news editor at The Sunflower.
These debates are an opportunity for candidates seeking the presidency and vice presidency to discuss issues and questions impacting lives of students each day. Students, this is your chance to learn about the candidates who will appear on the ballot. Voting will start April 6th at 8 a.m. and closes April 8th at 5 p.m. In just a little bit, we will introduce each ticket, but we will first want to go over how the debate is structured. The debate will be timed by the Sunflower moderators. Each ticket will have a 3-minute opening statement. Each ticket will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and each ticket will have the opportunity to answer every question. After all tickets have answered the question, each ticket will have the ability to offer a minute rebuttal. And finally, after all questions have been asked at the end of the debate, each ticket will have 3 minutes to offer a closing statement. We provided each ticket with the rules beforehand and prior to the debate. An order was established. Going first is Jaden Island and Anushka Raju. And responding second, we have Mason Fouquet and Nanazine Kasirosafar. Sorry. We will also provide an opportunity for those in the audience, both in person and on YouTube, to ask a question. If you are in person and have a question, make your way to the back table and fill out a slip of paper. If you are joining us on YouTube, please type your question in the comment box. We will try our best to get your questions asked, but please note that we may not have time to get to each question. With that, I will pass it over to the Sunflower to begin moderating this debate.
Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening. We have selected questions to better understand each ticket's platform, experience, and goals as student leaders. As Elizabeth said, anyone in the audience or on YouTube can ask questions, and we will read them to the candidates as they come in.
To start, we would like to ask the candidates to give their opening statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for their statements. When there are 30 seconds remaining, we will give a light tap of the gavel. When time is allotted, there will be 2 taps. The debate will follow the order determined by the coin toss, with Island Raju going first. You may give your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. We want to first thank you all for being here and giving us the opportunity to share our goals for the future of Wichita State University. My name is Jaden Island, and I'm running as your student body presidential candidate. My running mate and I built our campaign on the vision that we would be able to build a campus culture rooted in strong leadership and administrative accountability. We hope to strengthen student relationships with our government and increase school spirit, alumni engagement, and overall student well-being by fostering an environment conducive to truth and the prioritization of student perspectives.
Hello, I'm Anushka Raju, your student body vice presidential candidate. I'm here to support the mission of our campaign in sharing our goals to provide information in a way that is clear, direct, and consistent, to keep students and their families at the forefront of every conversation, and manage higher education uncertainties and protect students at all costs. Our platform is rooted in a commitment to creating a campus where every student, regardless of their background, identity, or journey, feels welcomed, supported, and empowered to succeed.
We know that college can often feel isolating, and we want our administration to acknowledge those difficulties by taking the steps to ensure that students feel understood and seen in our policies and values.
Our community is at its strongest when every voice is heard, and when every student feels connected to the people and opportunities around them. Only then can we ensure that Wichita State is not only a place where we learn, but a place to call home.
We encourage you all to ask any and all questions that may come to mind. We're here to form connections and provide you with a better understanding of our campaign. Thank you.
Now, Fouquet and Kasirosafar, you may begin your opening statement.
Well, hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Mason Fouquet, and I'm proud to be running as your student body candidate for the 69th SGA session. Over the last few years of my college experience, I started as a freshman coming in, born and raised here in Wichita, and just trying to figure out more about navigating the college experience. I got involved with Turning Point USA and served both as the treasurer and further the vice president to this day. And I'm also an active member of the St. Paul Catholic Student Center here on campus.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Nazanin Kassir Safar. My major is biology and minor in chemistry and university honors. And I'm proud to serve as the Student Government Association 69th session vice president. My current role at the SGA 68th session is academic affairs chair, and I'm also the liberal arts and science senator. I had the opportunity to work with both students, faculty, and administration, so I've been seeing the gaps in improvements. I'm also been involved in honor societies such as Phi Kappa Phi, Dean Advisory Council, and Honor Ambassador. Thank you.
Through both my time as a business senator and all the past leadership that we have both held, we're running because we believe that Wichita State's more than just a university. It's a community of like-minded individuals, and being part of a community should be more than just showing up. It should mean feeling heard, represented, and most importantly, valued. That belief is reflected in our slogan, "Every Shocker Matters." To us, this is more than a phrase. It is a commitment of ensuring that every student, regardless of background or level of involvement, has a voice. Our campaign is built on three core principles: accountability, transparency, and student engagement. Accountability means following through on all of our actions and always working in the best interest of students. Transparency means keeping you informed about what SGA is doing, why they're doing it, and when they're doing it. And engagement means creating meaningful opportunities for students to get involved and help shape the future of this great campus.
We are not here for the position. We are here to listen, lead, and take action because every shocker matters. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now go on to the questions, and just as a reminder, each pair of candidates will have 1.5 minutes to answer each questions. After both tickets have answered, you will have the ability to offer a 1-minute rebuttal.
The first question is, why did you choose to run for president? Why did you choose your vice president? And vice presidents, why did you agree to run?
For us, and specifically for myself in running for president, I certainly, through my involvement on campus, have recognized significant room for growth in Wichita State University. I'm so proud to call Wichita State my home, but through our involvement, both in Student Government Association, I know that there's a lot more that we can do for our students, whether that be having more equitable conversations through academic affairs and providing further opportunities for scholarships and things like that for our students. And I think just by having a passion for our university and wanting to see it thrive and seeing just how far it can go, that was my rationale in running for president. And in choosing Anushka, I'm very proud to have witnessed her role as Director of Health and Wellness for Student Government Association over the past session. And I see her as an individual who's more than competent to help us lead this university to a better tomorrow.
Yeah, so adding on to what Jaden had already mentioned, I agreed to run as Jaden's running mate. One, because I have completely fallen in love with serving students through Student Government Association, and when Jaden approached me, I had honestly, until that point, had been completely impressed by their knowledge. They're incredibly well-spoken, and their passion for students is incredibly obvious in everything that they do. It was an honor to be asked to be Jaden's running mate, and it was such an easy yes.
As for myself, I chose specifically just to run for student body president because I realized that I would be attending WSU, or I hoped to attend WSU at least whenever I was in early years of high school. I decided that I wanted to stay in Wichita because this is a great city we have. I was born and raised here, and from a young age I grew to love this city. The reason that I decided to run for student body presidents more specifically is because I'm passionate about the university. I would like to inspire the change that we hope to be, and I feel that there is no one better to lead it than someone who is more passionate about this than probably most of the people that have been involved in the last few years. And so, just knowing all of the attributes of Nazanin specifically, after joining SGA this first semester of my junior year, I realized that she was not only highly intelligent, but she has what it takes, and she's a great communicator. She knows how to delegate and get work done. And as her time serving as an academic affairs chair, she's proven that she can get work done.
That was your 30-second warning. You can still go.
And then it was such an honor to sit next to Mason and then get to know him. He's such a kind and knowledgeable person, human being, and it's my honor to accept being his vice president, and I'm so excited for it.
So we have our first question from the audience. The question is, with recent legislation being passed, how do you plan to support our underrepresented students and the agencies that are used to support them?
I think that we've all become really acutely aware of some of those legislative shifts that have happened recently, and I think our main priority in that area is to guide with empathy in our leadership by first having conversation with those students and understanding what their specific concerns are, and then working with administration to not only comply with what that legislation says, but to set forth a precedent of prioritizing student needs and values and making sure that we're able to find further solutions or finding ways that we can still continue to support students in a way that complies with legislative protocols.
Yeah, and I'm just adding on a little bit. We would want students to know that we are here for them in any capacity that they need. We've had quite a few meaningful conversations with students already who have been so kind enough to share their experiences. So it's exciting to know that we would potentially be able to support students in any capacity that they need and be here for them in any way that we can.
Regarding the current state of the legislative branch of Kansas, I obviously understand that everything can change in a heartbeat in any sort of limitation of government. But assuming, the fact that you guys are talking about the most recent stuff that's been going on in the Kansas Senate and our, DEI, now I guess the change in programming with that, we would have to honor everything they do. As Jaden eloquently said, it's really not up to us, it's up to them at a state level. If they're the ones giving us funding, if we choose to, for whatever reason, backlash and not just adhere to the change in legislation they've made, we're risking losing our funding as a university, which is over $130 million a year. So we really can't afford to make these mistakes. And yeah, on a student side, it is unfortunate because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not happy about these changes, and it's our job to be, leading the student body in a way, if elected, that would reflect not only fully adhering to the law, but supporting students first.
Would you like to take time for a rebuttal? Okay, our next question is, what experience do you have that has prepared you for this role?
For myself, during the 68th session right now, I currently serve as the undergraduate student advocate, and that experience has really informed me in terms of being able to navigate conversations with different administrative offices, whether that be parking services, academic affairs, financial aid, international student studies, you name it, I've likely had conversations with them. And then in the 67th session, I was also able to serve as an underrepresented student senator, and so I think my recent experience in student government has more than prepared me not only to navigate being able to have conversations with my constituents, but also navigating university policies and procedures.
So this is my first year within student government, and I currently serve as the Director for Health and Wellness on the executive branch. But although this is my first year with student government, this is not my first year serving students. Throughout my college experience, I have been able to have multiple conversations with students, both as a student and as a student leader. These experiences have helped me, are the ones that have led me to student government, and are the ones that keep me involved in Wichita State and wanting to continue to serve students in any capacity that I can.
As for myself, some of the experience that I have that I would say helped me qualify for this role would be, I've always been a leader from a young age, and I was blessed to be able to be a soccer captain for 3 years in high school. And within just the college scene alone, I've led the RSO that I represent, Turning Point USA, for just about 2 years, and in multiple respects, both as treasurer and a vice president. And also, now as a business senator for SGA, I understand that supporting students is kind of what we do. It's why we're here. And so I understand that that's the experience that I think we need to be able to have for this role.
And to add on to that, I've also been serving as the academic affairs chair, and I've been involved with students, faculty, and administration, and I've seen that one needs to get improved. And throughout these experience, I believe I'm ready to take that to next step and help students on campus more.
Okay, I have another question from the audience. For the past few years, the appropriations funding for student organizations has increased. With the SGA budget staying flat for fiscal year 27, how will your administrations continue to support our agencies and recognize student organizations, especially with agencies going through the appropriations process for the first time?
In our capacity as student body president and vice president, one of our main prioritizations when it comes to finances would be, one, to rely on our resources. Handling a budget for thousands of students can come with a lot of pressures, but I think that our first prioritization is to lean on some of our advisors who have been in this capacity in these roles for the past couple of years, and also leaning upon the precedent that has been set from previous sessions. And so specifically when it comes to kind of reallocating that budget, I believe that our administration is prepared to make some reallocations to ensure that all our registered student organizations, including the new agency tier, would be funded to the capacity that our student government is able to accommodate for.
Additionally, for speaking to the agencies who would be going through the appropriations process for the first time, we would want to make sure that they have all the resources and guidance that they might need to help them through this process, whether that's through our staff or our executive branch as well, to make sure that they feel prepared going into this process as well.
Yeah, similarly to how Director Raju stated, there's a lot of agencies now that have changed the way that they're formed at the core, and so they're going to be going through this for the first time. They're going to need help, and they're going to need to figure out how to navigate this change. So it's good that we have a framework in the university set up of both educators and instructors and advisors alike that can help them navigate this, but we can also be a voice for basically advocating for, hey, if you guys need help, we're here to reach out to, and don't be a stranger, because there's a lot of people that are going to be probably new to the process anyway, incoming freshmen with RSOs and the reallocation of funding anyway. So yeah, I think it's just about prioritizing communication and making sure that everybody knows that, if budgets are going to change, but we're going to obviously want to put students first in every action to where that no students left behind with that whole budget plan.
And to add on to that, one of our core and main idea of our campaign is engagement. We want to have more engagement so we can hear from students, from RSOs, and act onto it.
Okay, we have another question from the audience. The next president will be the chair of the Kansas Board of Regents Advisory Board, which is composed of the SGA presidents of the KBOR institutions. For both tickets, if elected, what would be some goals, initiatives, or priorities that you would pursue as the chair of the board? What would be your approach in working with SGAs?
I think that the Kansas Board of Regents is a great opportunity to connect with student body presidents from different universities across the state of Kansas. I think that our first prioritization in terms of approaching the board during legislative sessions throughout the summer would be to first kind of get an understanding of what the visions for different universities are across Kansas. And then I think from there, relying upon the leadership from current student body President Wong and trying to see, what were some of the prioritizations that were had during the current session, and kind of going from there to better understand what that process looks like and how we can prioritize collaboration and communication with other student body presidents. Specifically in terms of taking on that responsibility of being chair, I think that I'm certainly open to learning about how KBOR is structured and being able to open my repertoire and resources across the state. But I know it's certainly going to be a learning experience, and I'm more than willing to take on that role.
Yeah, to call it a leadership experience would be, or a learning experience would be an understatement. Obviously, with any sort of leadership, it's all about listening. So I think it would be great as a chair to be able to give the opportunity to, kind of diversify your portfolio, so to say, and learn more about how other universities are structured and how they work. to be able to hear from others who have maybe been in that process or that position and understand the processes for a longer time than me or Jaden would just coming into this for the first time, that would be a blessing. And so I think it would be great to be able to hear from people who have been tenured in this position. And as initiatives go on this, I would look to definitely want to make WSU more collaborative with other universities in Kansas, see if we can't maybe try to engage the student population more and try to plan initiatives with other universities, maybe for, I don't know, some sort of career day or just trying to keep everybody involved, because Wichita's alone, has some huge companies based out of here that other universities could maybe benefit from if we were able to open up the chance of career fairs for those.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal?
Another audience question. What are specific programs you plan to maintain in the next session, and what are specific goals you have to ensure their success?
In terms of specific programming, I think that specifically from the role of the president, I would love to hear student perspectives about what they want to see on campus. I think that a really important role, specifically when it comes to student leadership, is understanding those student experiences firsthand. I think during those first, 40 days or so within the term, really going out and getting feedback from students about, what programming have you enjoyed on campus so far? Where would you like to see specific improvements? And then from there, once we have an understanding of what our constituents' needs and wants are, I think from there being able to coordinate with our cabinet and being able to build not only events and programs, but experiences that really move that Shocker vision forward.
Adding on, I think the current administration has done a great job with outreach, and we would definitely love to continue that, whether it's through athletics or meeting international students, or, this session has established a director of transfer student experiences, and I think those are both very incredibly valuable. We would like to continue meeting students where they are, having more student voices at the table from all different student populations to make sure that we can represent them and make sure that their experience is enjoyable here at Wichita State.
Yeah, we definitely have some great initiatives here on campus that have taken place in previous administrations. The Child Development Center, esports and Shocker Rowing, to name a few, all of which were given a lot less funding this year. These things students care about. And so I think primarily I would say, just finding out more about what students need and what students want at the core, hearing people out and not just coming in blindly and, like a wrecking ball, taking everything in your path and restructuring without any sort of absorption of knowledge, but to be able to actually listen to people and, at a most simply put way, just having an ear. I think it's great because you're giving students a chance to tell you what they're passionate about, and that's how we make this place better.
And then to add on to that, as Anushka said, outreach was the most important thing that the current SGA has, and then we will want to continue that for the next SGA as well. And through that, we can have more tablings, more events, so students can know that Student Government Association exists, because what I've heard, not a lot of students know about a Student Government Association, but we would want to do that and then make sure every student know about it.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal? Okay, the next question is, can you tell us about your priorities if you are elected?
I think that in terms of prioritizations, one of our main goals during our term is to not only foster connections between the administration and students, who are usually decentered from those conversations, whether that be commuter students, some of our graduate students, international students, so on and so forth. But I think that really making sure that we're able to put forth community and ensure that transparency is something that's prioritized during our administration is something that is really important to us. Fostering that connection with students is something that really guides our leadership vision, and we want to ensure that during our administration we're able to put forth student perspectives in every sense of the term.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that transparency aspect, because that's one of our three core tenets of student engagement, transparency, and accountability. But as for specifics, I think we have to look at our campus and be thankful. I mean, we're not only the most diverse campus in Kansas by far, we have the most out-of-state and international students of any school in Kansas. And part of that, I think, is taking the blessing at its core, because any school that is as diverse as us, that is pretty powerful. If you look at a room of 18,000, you know, and they're all the same backstory, the same life, what's special about that? Nothing. So to have all these different perspectives and walks of life coming together and blending, that's what makes universities like this special. So I think transparency is the big one. For both of our campaigns, we both talked about transparency a lot, but specifically more engaging student engagement. Look at our basketball game attendance. It's ridiculous. I mean, we have a student section that's like the size of a high school basketball game student section. And so I think that we need to not only have more athletics attendance, we need to have more, you know, events on campus like career fairs. The Root Beer Kegger is a great one, but maybe we could do more like that. And specifically just putting people back in the classroom and not online anymore. I mean, how many people are getting their degrees with ChatGPT nowadays? So just at its core, I think student engagement would be our top as well.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal?
This is a question from the audience. The president and vice president work closely with WSU administration. What makes you feel that you are qualified to represent the entirety of the students' bodies once?
In terms of being able to adequately represent students from different parts of campus, from different backgrounds and identities, I think that is not a task or responsibility that we take lightly. I think that in our very student-centered approach, whether that be, you know, our campaign points of community, transparency, and resilience, or our interactions with students throughout our campaign, we don't only want to communicate that every shocker matters, but also understanding that the unique identities of our students and their backgrounds deserve to be respected and understood for their concerns for the future of our university. And so with that, I think that really getting that first-person perspective from our constituents and being able to go out and look through different interest groups, whether that be students of various ability statuses, international students, so on and so forth, I think that really understanding what their unique concerns are is going to help us more equitably and adequately represent them to the administration.
Yes, definitely echoing Jaden. We all experience college, but we all experience it differently, and I think that is one of the most beautiful things about being a college student. We are definitely hoping to, again, understand every student perspective and be able to take those conversations that we do have with them to administration and staff to make sure that they feel seen, heard, and understood here at Wichita State.
And just for transparent clarification, yeah, we believe that every shocker matters, but also their backgrounds matter, which is why I was so serious about the diversity point. It's great that everybody gets to have a different story, and that's what makes us special. But back to the question, what makes us specifically adequately able to lead, I think, is that we're both natural listeners, and that's what we need to be able to do as student leaders. So obviously, being able to represent an entire student body is a tough task for any, and I think it's, you know, partly something that we're both blessed with, but to be able to leave your beliefs at the door or leave maybe your biases at the door and come in here with an open ear and hear from people that you may not agree with ever, but to be able to maintain an honest conversation so that you can adequately represent them, that is what needs to happen. Because otherwise, I don't understand how any student body president would ever be able to lead. You know, to be able to leave your premonitions at the door and just to take at its core the student beliefs and the student representation, that is why we're here.
And then to add on to that, from someone who's coming from another country with a different background and different perspective, I had such a great opportunity with every students and to work with them, and I want to deliver that to other students right now. So everyone is like heard, and so the same thing as me when I came from another country to here.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal? Our next question is an audience question. Will you be a student the whole time during your term if you are elected?
Yes, I intend to maintain full enrollment for both semesters of my presidency.
I also will be maintaining a full course load during my potential vice presidency with plans to graduate in spring 2027.
I haven't graduated yet, and I'm not a quitter, so yeah, I'll be enrolled.
And same as me, I'll be full-time student during my time working in the SGA.
Another audience question. There have been several changes at the state and federal level regarding diversity, empowerment, and inclusion, budget provisos, and gender-neutral bathrooms. For both tickets, what would be your administration's approach in staying up to date with these changes and informing and advocating for students within this shifting environment?
In terms of keeping up with legislative updates that are happening at the state level, I think that a really unique position that exists in the current cabinet is our Director for Legislative and Policy Affairs. One way that we would intend to structure that cabinet position is to intend that that individual is capable and qualified to be able to not only be able to read and understand that legislation, but be able to communicate those changes back to our student body in a way that's digestible and understandable for students, whatever their learning style looks like. And in terms of being able to support students during those hard changes, I think sort of echoing some of the sentiments that we spoke about earlier on this evening, really leading with empathy and being able to execute, whichever legislative changes we may be seeing, but first prioritizing student concerns and ensuring that they still feel safe and valued. And if there may be things that they're no longer able to do at the university, maintaining and being able to show that they have other means of doing so, whatever our university has within their power.
Yeah, and through my time with Turning Point USA, I've gotten to know a lot of state and legislative officials, city officials as well. So not only just keeping up with legislative policy from the news, but also if there were ever questions, it's probably something where I could, using my networking, talk to an official if we had specific questions about whether it was Mayor Lily Wu or Senate President Ty Masterson. Anybody in Kansas who's in a position of power, we could probably reach. And so I would not be hesitant to have any conversations with them while also respecting the needs of the students. And I understand that, this current student administration went up just to Topeka a couple weeks ago for the Capitol visit day, and they got to hear from a lot of great leaders and hear from other SGAs as well. So yeah, working in collaboration with them, working in collaboration with the state of Kansas, we'd be able to keep up to date on everything and ensure that we're complying so as not to lose any sort of university funding.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal? Our next question is, what do you think are the biggest challenges students face in college? How can student government better address them?
Yeah, so a lot of the conversations that I have had the privilege of having in the health and wellness space is that students, a lot of our commuter students, especially me being one of them, coming to college, it often felt like you were coming here just to go to class and then go home afterwards, but there's a lot of value in the community that we have here at Wichita State. I think Wichita State is special in that we are small enough that it's easy to get on a first name basis, but we are large enough that there are so many avenues of opportunity for students to pursue. And I think one of the main challenges is getting students in the right doorways that they need to be into to get them where they want to be. So, things like loneliness, burnout, and other mental health challenges that often face stigma. I think those are one of the main challenges that students face here or in college in general.
And in terms of challenges specific to experiences here at Wichita State, I know that a lot of students have had concerns about programming and things of that nature recently. And so I think that collaboration and communication, transparency especially with administrative offices, will allow us to address those student concerns directly by putting student perspectives first.
I think one thing that I've specifically noticed, and this is among social circles, it's among being here in person on campus, but it's loneliness. Director Raju touched on it, but it's crazy how many people you see walking around campus that just seem to have a blank stare on their face, and you smile at them or you wave and you get nothing back. That to me is an issue. And I think that it can be better, figured out by the use of counselors and the use of these clinicians that we have in the My Shocker Health Department. And also there's been a lot of great initiatives such as the Suspenders for Hope, that I know they made those shirts and basically had that WSU standing for We Support You, letter U. and just showing that, there are people here who care about you. So I think that that's a big one, is loneliness and the lack of support for your fellow student, the lack of care. And I think that in student government, we can strive to be as outwardly supportive as possible, whether it's through, increased initiatives for student collaboration or events. We just want to make it as, I guess, inducive of a community as possible.
And then to add on to that, as we mentioned, one of our platform is engagement. And through my time at the SGA, I was working on an initiative, plus or minus sign. And then me and my committee worked so hard to get a lot of responses from students. And I believe that's one thing that's really important, to hear from students and then take action based off of that.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal?
Another question from the audience. What is one thing you did not like about the current administration?
I think that one thing, not necessarily of a dislike, but I think that there's always room for improvement within administrations. I think it can be hard to be critical of others because there's still so much important work that's being done. But when we talk about improvements, I think that there's certainly room for continued collaboration and communication across branches. Sometimes, especially within our legislative branch, we know that it can be hard to receive feedback from those from the executive branch and be able to understand how those initiatives are being carried out. And so I think one of our main goals is to ensure that that transparency across specific branches is happening, and specifically making sure that our senators feel understood and that they have the support that they need for administrative connections.
I won't be shy to this one at all. You guys are all great people, but this needs to be improved, like, drastically. So I came into Senate this last semester, and I don't know whether it was because of my background or because I'm a Catholic, but it seemed that I was just immediately hated. And it wasn't something that was maybe right in my face, but it was like the first Senate meeting that I attended, I walked up and they were literally talking about me. And I walked up and said, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And 5 or 6 people stopped dead in their tracks and were just like, "Oh." So I think that I would like to foster a community of more collaboration and maybe respect for your neighbor. Because rather than hating on each other, guys, we need to be able to build each other up. I mean, that's not acceptable, and so we're all here to be building this university up. Why can't we build each other up? That's my biggest take.
And then to add on to that, we are here for students and not here for like any hate or anything else. And another thing that the current SGA can improve is on their social media, and getting other students know that a Student Government Association existed. As I mentioned during our tabling for our campaign, not a lot of students know about Student Government Association. So definitely more outreach so students can know where to go when they need help.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal? Okay, we have another audience question. Do you have any plans specifically for international students, since a lot of our students are international, for example, helping them integrate into the general student body?
Yeah, I think specifically in my role as the undergraduate student advocate, I've had the great privilege of being able to coordinate directly with some of our directors in the International Student Office. And so I think through continued collaboration with them, being able to help understand what programs they have in place to help with things such as integration. But I think secondarily, being able to have specific student perspectives of what that experience is like and what specific areas there are for improvements. And so whether that be, continuing the position of our international student director, or being able to have public forums or other sorts of avenues specifically for international students to be able to share their concerns with us, and being able to relay those back to the proper administrative bodies to not only, one, continue to ensure that students' experiences are really put to the forefront of those conversations, but secondarily being able to understand, accommodate, and keep up with the ever-changing world that is international education.
And adding on to that, I'm a daughter of 2 international students who both attended here at Wichita State, and so I have that firsthand experience of what being a student here looks like to someone who's thousands and thousands of miles away from home. So whether that's supporting their cultural activities and holidays or helping them get the healthcare that they need, because healthcare is expensive. And so, making sure that they're well enough to go to school and continue going to school are both priorities of ours. And I think our cabinet position that is related to international student experience is a great one that we would love to continue.
And then on our side, I'm not from here. I moved here since high school, and I know the feeling of being international student. So I feel them, and if we get elected, we will going to work with international students a lot, because we understand them, and then during the current situation, not a lot of job is available for them on campus. So we're definitely going to work on that, creating more jobs on campus, having more events that are cultural events, and anything that they can make them feel like home. I know it's not gonna exactly be home, but something that they can feel similar to it. But definitely, one of our main goals is working with international students, have more international students on our SGA, and then basically have more diversity. Thank you.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal?
Our next question is, how do you plan to engage students with SGA?
I think that having a diverse range of outreach experiences is something that our administration would love to prioritize. We understand that, tabling and just having events here on campus is not the way that every student interacts with the Student Government Association. And so I think providing diverse avenues for students to not only give feedback for what their perceptions are of Student Government Association, but also really, like Anushka was saying, meeting students where they're at, whether that be going towards places where a lot of our community students frequent, or really just being able to make sure that they have the resources that they need to be able to engage with student government in an effective way.
Yeah, and additionally, we would definitely want any of our programming to reflect that. So we have quite a large adult learner population, and many of them do have families, and we've been able to have a lot of meaningful conversation with our adult learners. But a lot of them would like to see times where their families can also be involved, and this can be reflected across many different student populations.
Touching on that too, engaging students with SGA, I think, is a big part of what we need to do to increase the SGA turnout. I believe currently we have around 30 senator seats filled out of 55 available. I don't understand how that's even capable in a school with 18,000 people. I mean, it's not really a problem of the student body. I feel as though it's almost a problem with our outreach. So more tabling events, more initiatives on campus, whether it's in the student residence halls, maybe offering them some sort of a a gift basket of, here's some laundry detergent and whatnot, but just making new students feel welcome, making international students feel as though this can be their home too, even though it's a second home, and making our local students feel accepted here, because we need to be able to increase the numbers of SGA turnout, and I think the best way to do that would be by communicating with them not only in person but on social media as well. Our Instagram is definitely lacking, and I think that we can improve multiple social media avenues.
And then to add on to that, we go to students instead of them coming to us. It's a really important thing, because not a lot of students know about us. And then definitely engagement, outreach, and social media is the biggest one, because everyone uses social media right now. We can post everything that we do on SGA, any events that we have, and yeah.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal? Our next question is an audience question. What is a decision you might make that could be unpopular but necessary?
Especially in Student Government Association, I know that a lot of financial decisions that are made at the student government level can be especially contentious. When it comes to being able to make sure that whether in the appropriations or the student fees process, that every entity is happy at the end of that process is not something that we can guarantee as an association, nor do we intend to make that promise. However, one thing that our association, that our administration does want to do is make sure that the rationale behind certain financial decisions is clear and available to our students throughout the entirety of that decision-making process.
When I think of an unpopular yet necessary decision, I definitely think of budgets immediately as well. I mean, I understand that there's going to be backlash with any budget and you can't please everybody. That's just life. However, there is a significant amount of backlash, especially in talks I've had with other students. It seems as though SGA is like the butt of all jokes lately, and especially after the student fee commission hearings, nobody was very happy about that. It's kind of one of those things where it's a double negative, because you either give funding to organizations that support the most students, and then there's going to be smaller organizations that feel cut off and they feel like they've been left in the dust, or you fund the smaller ones and then the majority of students feel left in the dust. So I think it's, instead of focusing on taking funding and moving it around among student organizations, it's more about creating long-term lasting scholarships that can help support more students coming in for years to come.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal?
In recent interviews with the Sunflower, transparency was a big issue for both tickets. So what does a more transparent student government look like?
I think for us, transparency isn't just contingent upon a higher volume of information that's being given to students, because I think as every, office on campus has run into, email blasts aren't the way that a lot of our students like to receive that information. And so I think transparency for us is more so of being willing to have those hard conversations with students and being able to provide information in ways that really work for our students. And so one means of transparency that we've talked about in our preliminary conversations would be making sure that we're, during the Senate session, allowing for some of our executive reports to specifically include times for students themselves to come in and ask questions to us, but also going out during those tabling and other outreach opportunities and being able to bring students that rationale directly to where they are, to ensure that they understand that we are serving them, no matter what the decision being made specifically is.
And speaking to our social media too, this year this administration has rolled out the SGA newsletter. So definitely building upon that to make SGA not only more reachable to students, but also more digestible, because I agree a lot of the language surrounding SGA can be sometimes difficult to understand.
I would say also, not only just keeping in mind the aspect of more outreach through social media, but I guess the biggest thing is knowing on campus when you walk around and ask a student what's going on in SGA, the majority of students would not be able to tell you. So in trying to promote more transparency, I would think that we would not only look to go onto social media more, but to also take ourselves to student avenues and basically give them information. Not, me and Nazanin ourselves, but having a team of directors who can delegate and basically pass information around. That would be their jobs. So I think it would be more important to make sure every student is kind of in the know of what's going on and not left in the dust, because there are a lot of decisions that are made somewhat behind closed doors, and I understand that our Senate is open for visitors, and I understand that our committee meetings, do have public forum, but that is not used. Public forum is rarely attended. We don't ever have much of a turnout in our committee public forums, and in Senate, it seems like maybe 1 out of every 10 meetings or so would be attended in a public forum. So making sure the presidents of our RSOs and the executive teams of our RSOs know that they can come to us with questions, I think is a big thing. And so maybe promoting more of the support would be the biggest deal.
Would you like to take time for rebuttal? We have our last audience question. What is one transformative leadership experience that you feel prepares you for the role of student body president and student body vice president? How will that experience shape how you lead?
When it comes to transformative leadership experiences, one story that comes to mind is my recent opportunity to be able to go to the Capitol during Higher Education Day and be able to directly engage with different senators at the Kansas legislative branch. And I think through that opportunity, being able to not only see what our student constituents at this and other universities are facing, but really understanding what the future of Kansas and what issues are most pressing to Kansas citizens really helps inform not only the decisions that I make on behalf of Wichita State students today, but in being able to help them guide and navigate the society that they'll be entering into post-graduation.
For me, I would say the role that I'm currently in within Student Government Association, the Health and Wellness Director, has been an incredibly transformative role. I've had the opportunity to not only connect with students and make them feel like they're in a safe space to express their healthcare concerns. I've also been able to have conversations with staff, whether it's at Student Health Services, CARE, CAPS, or HOPE, to educate myself about the different avenues of resources that are available to students, and then take those and be able to help students where they need it.
A transformative leadership experience that I've been a part of, I would say, has been joining student government. When I came in, I didn't know much about how the processes went. I didn't know how we legislated, and I was eager to learn as a young senator, just thinking, okay, well, how can I learn more about this and get more involved in, shaping the future of our school? But over the last year, I've really come to enjoy it. And at first I didn't. I thought, okay, well, that first Senate meeting, having to walk in to hear that, I was like, is this really how it's going to go? Am I going to sit here and get berated for my beliefs? Am I going to get turned against and people aren't going to talk to me? However, through making more friends in Senate, having people as great as Nazanin to agree to be my VP, we're blessed, at WSU to have a good SGA, and I think that we can make it even better. It's just about being able to step up and know when you can lead. So that's kind of the whole goal of our campaign, is to take this in an even better direction, increase student engagement, increase transparency, and increase accountability, making sure that those who are, maybe feel as in lesser than heard can have their voice heard.
And also for me, my current role at the SGA as Academic Affairs Chairperson has been the most meaningful leadership for me throughout my college experience, because through that I've got the opportunity to work with students, faculty, administration, and work toward them. Yeah. Thanks.
We'll now move into your opening or closing statements. And as a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes.
We would first like to thank everyone who came out to listen to these debates today and lended an ear to better understanding our vision for Wichita State. Ultimately, we hope that through our discussions today, you've been able to get a better picture of our passion for serving our constituents and making sure that Wichita State remains a place for all of us.
It's been our greatest pleasure to be able to address student concerns directly, and we certainly encourage you all to continue pushing for representation and clarification for the matters closest to your heart. If you'd like to follow us along on our campaign or have any additional questions before next week's debate, feel free to visit or contact us on Instagram at IslandRaju69. We look forward to our next debate with Mason and Nazanin, and certainly appreciate their participation this evening.
I'd like to thank you all again for coming here tonight, and to those who've taken the time to listen, ask questions, and engage in this process. It truly means a lot to see students who care about the future of our campus just as we do. I also want to take a moment to personally thank my family, my friends, and my girlfriend for being here and supporting me. I love you guys. I would also like to thank everyone who's tuning in through the SGA live stream on YouTube, as well as the team working behind the scenes to make sure that this is all possible. Your work helps make this process more accessible to all students, and that truly means a lot. At the end of the day, this election is not just about me or Nazanin. It is about you. It is about every student who comes to Wichita State with goals, challenges, and a desire to belong and succeed. Over the past year, both of us have had the opportunity to serve in student government, and those experiences have shown us what SGA does well and where we can do better. More importantly, they have shown us how important it is for students to feel connected to the decisions that impact their daily lives. Throughout this campaign, we have emphasized accountability, transparency, and student engagement. These are not just talking points, they are the foundation of how I plan to lead. Accountability means following through on the promises that we will make to you as students. Transparency means making sure you understand the what, where, and why of SGA. And engagement means creating real, meaningful opportunities for you to share your voice and shape this campus. I also understand that not every student feels connected to SGA right now, and that is something that we are determined to change. Every student deserves to feel heard, represented, and valued, whether you are deeply involved on campus or an incoming freshman. Every shocker matters is more than a slogan. It is commitment. It is the mindset that I will bring into every decision, into every conversation, and every action as your future student body president. If elected, I will lead with intention, listen with integrity, and work alongside Nazanin to build trust between students and their government. We are ready to put in the time, the effort, and the energy to serve you and advocate for what most matters to you. I'm asking for your vote because we care deeply about this community and the future of Wichita State. Together, we can continue building a campus where every student feels that they belong, every voice is valued, and where every shocker truly does matter. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you all for attending tonight, either in person or online on the SGA YouTube. The final debate will be Thursday, April 2nd, right here in RSC 233 at 6 p.m. and live on the SGA YouTube. As a reminder, voting will begin April 6th at 8 a.m. and will close April 8th at 5 p.m. The link to vote will be sent to your WSU emails, so please check our Instagram, which is at Wichita State SGA, to learn about in-person voting locations and the cool incentives that we're offering to students who vote in the 2026 SGA general election. Thank you guys all for joining us tonight, and have a great night.